Hello, my name is Emma Christine, a 44-year-old housewife who found herself in a challenging situation after 32 years of marriage to her husband Larry, a relationship that had remained childless and was characterized more by routine than companionship. Things had taken a stark turn. The marriage had slowly disintegrated into a state where mutual support and affection were missing. Despite Emma's initial belief in their partnership being supportive and complementary, one day, after filing for divorce, and amid the painful process of dividing their assets, Emma decided to claim the house. Despite her clear stance, Larry refused to challenge her decision and, without a word, abruptly left the hospital room where she was fighting cancer. His indifference to her pleas for him to stay or engage in a meaningful conversation highlighted the deep rift between them. Feeling abandoned in her time of need, Emma was enveloped by loneliness. However, as her illness battled on, the resentment and pain that had lingered in her heart began to fade. It seemed as if her love for Larry had evaporated, replaced by a recognition of his consistent selfishness and lack of support. Realizing that Larry deserved some form of retribution for his actions, Emma began to calmly plan her revenge. Over the years, she had endured his demands and indifference, even during her illness. Larry expected her to fulfill her duties as a housewife, prioritizing his own leisure and never offering a helping hand. This disregard became more pronounced as Emma sensed a distinct change in her health, which felt different from any illness she had previously experienced. Emma's story of a marriage devoid of joy and empathy highlights her growing awareness and determination to seek justice for herself. Despite the initial dreams of a supportive partnership, the reality had proven quite the opposite. With Larry asserting that she had no reason to complain about her role, the realization of her situation and her subsequent steps to address it mark a poignant turning point in her life. I immediately contacted my father, who accompanied me to the hospital where I was diagnosed with cancer. Luckily, it was caught early, and the doctor was optimistic, encouraging me to start treatment right away. Eager to tackle the illness head-on, I asked my father to pack only the essential items from home, while I quickly went through the hospital admission process. Unable to see Larry that day due to his work commitments, I sent him a brief message to inform him. Cancer has been detected, and I'm being hospitalized for immediate treatment. As I dealt with the anxiety of facing an uncertain future, thoughts of Larry inevitably found their way into my mind. Despite feeling that my love for him had diminished, deep down, there remained a faint hope that we could confront this challenge together and perhaps restore some semblance of our former life as a couple. I imagined a scenario where, perhaps moved by my vulnerability, Larry would show concern and ask, "Are you okay?" I longed for even a few comforting words or a single visit, which would have meant so much at that moment. I also wondered how he was managing without me at home, handling the meals and daily chores. A part of me felt guilty for not being able to maintain the household routines that I had always managed so effortlessly. However, as the days in the hospital turned into weeks, Larry never came to visit. He had read my message, but there was no sign of concern, not even a simple acknowledgement of my situation. His indifference, especially at a time when I was facing such a serious illness, deeply hurt me and highlighted the stark reality of our relationship. Confronted with this painful truth, I decided to let go of any expectations from Larry. With a renewed focus, I braced myself for the tough road ahead in my fight against cancer. The treatment was intense and filled with pain and discomfort. The side effects of the medication were harsh, leading to many sleepless nights. During these challenging times, there were moments when I considered giving up and letting my weakening body succumb to the disease. Yet with each passing day, I found strength in my resolve to face this battle head-on, determined to overcome the illness despite the odds. Though laden with hardship, this journey slowly transformed my perspective, teaching me resilience and the importance of self-reliance in the face of adversity. Every time I felt overwhelmed by my illness, the encouraging words from my parents, who reassured me that I was doing well and that things would improve, gave me the strength to persevere. Then on a day when I felt particularly weak, lying in bed and staring blankly at the ceiling, the door to my room swung open unexpectedly. It wasn't a scheduled visit day for my parents, and I was curious about who it could be. As I turned my head, the visitor's identity became clear. It was Larry. I wondered if he had come out of genuine concern for my condition. As he looked at my gaunt face and hollow cheeks, a whirlwind of emotions rendered me speechless. I feared whether this sight of me would make him despise me even more. Without any show of empathy, Larry sat down on a chair next to my bed, stared at me, and laughed. "So this is how bad one can look with cancer, huh? You don't even look like a woman anymore." His words felt like a sharp drain of blood from my face. These were cruel words, completely inappropriate for anyone, let alone someone battling cancer. I wished he would stop speaking, but Larry, oblivious to my feelings, continued with even more devastating comments. "Ever since you've been hospitalized and not at home, every day has been like heaven. The house is a mess, but I don't even have to go back there. Life is so comfortable without you." His merciless words reopened old wounds, and I couldn't understand why there was not even a shred of concern in his voice. Although I wanted to rebuke him sharply, my weakened body restrained me, and all I could do was silently endure his harsh words. I stared at him with a vacant gaze, and noticing my look, he laughed mockingly. Then, as if to add insult to injury, he casually mentioned, "Oh yeah, by the way, I've already filed the divorce papers. I'll be taking the house. As for the property division, you hardly have any right to refuse." Hearing these words, my vision blurred, and the room seemed to twist around me. The emotional and physical toll of my illness, combined with Larry's heartless comments, felt overwhelming. But it was this very moment that crystallized my resolve to recover and reclaim my life from the shadows of such cruelty. Larry had filed for divorce without even discussing it with me, leaving me speechless as I grappled with the shock. He continued to speak, "I've fallen for someone else. She's 21 years younger, but I'm serious about her. You're just in the way now." The painful realization that he was having an affair flashed through my mind. But having said what he wanted, Larry began to leave. "Wait a minute," I managed to say, but Larry paid no attention. It was clear there was no love left for me in his heart. The realization was so painful, yet in that moment, I felt a strange sense of clarity. "I see," I said quietly and with a laugh. Larry left the hospital room. After he left, I faced my treatment with renewed determination. Despite the emotional pain, I focused my will and resolved to fully recover from my cancer and regain my health. Those next 3 days might sound brief, but to me, racked with sleepless nights, they felt incredibly long. I wondered whether the divorce Larry mentioned was real or just meant to unsettle me. The uncertainty was unbearable, but I continued my treatment, holding on to a trump card that I believed would unsettle Larry completely once revealed. If panicked, he would surely try to reach out. As expected, Larry began to call, thinking it inappropriate to answer in the hospital. I ignored his calls, which persistently kept coming even in silent mode. Annoyed, I finally sent him a message. "I'm in a hospital room, and it's inconvenient to have my phone ringing, so please don't call." After that, the calls stopped, but then the texts started. "Please let me talk to you just once. I was wrong about everything. I'll apologize properly." His words seemed more like a defense strategy than genuine remorse. It appeared that Larry, perhaps realizing the gravity of his situation and the impact of his actions, had resorted to messaging after I didn't answer his calls. All his pleas seemed driven by sudden fear of the consequences rather than a true change of heart. Larry's constant calls pushed me to a decision, and when he texted, "Why did you accept the divorce so easily? Can I come over now?" I was at my limit. Facing Larry in my battle with illness seemed only to promise pain, but refusing him seemed likely only to lead to more incessant calls. Reluctantly, I replied, "Do as you like." My plan for retribution was about to begin. Larry, who had unjustly divorced me without my consent, was about to face the consequences of his actions. I had been looking forward to the moment when I could plunge him into deep despair. "What the hell is this all about?" Larry burst into the room, his voice loud and tinged with panic. To anyone else, his reaction might seem excessive, but under the circumstances, his agitation was understandable. I had kept a critical secret from him, and now the decisive moment had come. "I had no idea you had assets worth $15 million. Why didn't you tell me?" Larry demanded, his eyes wide as he placed my passbook on the desk, which clearly showed a balance of over $15 million. "I never mentioned it because you never asked," I responded calmly. "How could I imagine a housewife like you having so much money? If I knew, I wouldn't have divorced you," he continued, his tone shifting from surprise to regret. "That's not my problem. It's your fault for not asking and divorcing me without proper discussion," I countered, shutting down his baseless excuses. Despite his domineering behavior and the unilateral decision to end our marriage, Larry's selfishness didn't falter upon discovering my assets. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I wouldn't have divorced you if I knew," he repeated almost to himself. The truth was, I had built this fortune of over $15 million through savvy investments, a hobby I had taken up to fill my spare time. It was my parents who had suggested I try investing. Our family life had been comfortable even on Larry's salary alone, but I wanted something to engage my mind. Now the revelation of this hidden wealth was about to turn Larry's world upside down, illustrating the value he had overlooked in me for so many years. I had always wanted to contribute to our finances in some way. My father, who was knowledgeable about investments, eagerly taught me the ropes when I showed interest. Under his guidance, I started with the hope of making even a small profit, and I continued to invest steadily. I made my first investment 6 years ago, and since then I quickly improved, becoming capable of earning significant amounts through my investments. Even my father was surprised by my success, often remarking, "I never expected you to grow this much." The profits I generated over these 6 years amounted to the $15 million recorded in the passbook Larry had brought up. I was planning to tell Larry when the timing was right, but then I was diagnosed with cancer, and he divorced me without giving me a chance to explain. I never intended to keep this wealth a secret forever. Once I overcame my battle with cancer and could return to normal life, I planned to share the news of this $15 million with Larry, hoping it could enhance our life together and be used as needed. However, Larry chose to divorce me selfishly before I could reveal this financial secret. Now that we're essentially strangers, it feels peculiar to disclose this to him. Given our current circumstances, it seems more likely now that the entire $15 million belongs to me alone. As I recounted my story, Larry's face turned red, and he began to shout, "If I knew you had this much money, I wouldn't have divorced you. It's your fault for keeping it a secret. You should pay me $15 million in the property division to atone for the sin of keeping secrets from your husband." Whether he was panicking over the reality of missing out on such a vast fortune, or whether he was frustrated that he couldn't get his hands on it, Larry started making unrealistic demands. Since we were already divorced, he couldn't claim this money. Yet still he seemed unable to grasp that he could not reach the $15 million that was so close, yet so far. I couldn't help but laugh, which only fueled Larry's anger. "What are you laughing at? Stop belittling me," he yelled. He had always disliked my attitude, but now he accused me of being deceitful for not disclosing my fortune earlier. "A wife's assets belong to her. You have to give me this $15 million, he insisted. "I never planned to keep this a secret forever." "I was going to tell you, but you divorced me first," I replied, trying to stay calm. Yet Larry dismissed my explanations as mere excuses, becoming more enraged with every word I spoke. His shouting overwhelmed me, especially as I was still recovering from my illness. It was futile to continue the conversation. Larry was set on painting me as the villain. "Enough is enough," I finally said. "You divorced me on your own. Remember who filed the divorce papers without consulting me. I always knew your behavior was terrible, but I never thought you could be so cruel." Now my heart wasn't just burdened by the struggle against cancer, but also filled with resentment towards Larry. His loud shouting was too much for my weakened body to handle. More than that, I couldn't hold back my anger towards this selfish man who sat arrogantly beside my hospital bed, hurling accusations steeped in self-centeredness. "Do you know what I thought when I found out I had cancer?" I continued, hoping maybe this would make him reflect. "I thought that maybe this would make you worry about me, maybe be kinder and reconsider your feelings. But instead, you didn't even come to visit me in the hospital." His lack of empathy and support during such a critical time in my life revealed more about his character than anything else could. It was clear that any feelings he once had were overshadowed by his selfish desires and misguided entitlements. When Larry finally showed up, he bluntly stated that he had filed for divorce without my consent and intended to take the house. His audacity to then criticize me for having substantial assets was astounding. I had said it many times before. I never intended to keep my wealth a secret indefinitely. I had planned to find the right moment to share the news, but you ruined that opportunity with your actions. I had never blamed Larry as much as I did now. In the past, I always forgave his selfish behavior, believing that as a couple, we should support each other. I never scolded or reprimanded him, enduring everything for his sake. But the reason I could endure and keep going was that I had love for Larry. I truly loved him. But now I had no love left for him. All I felt was uncontrollable anger and disbelief towards a man who only spoke and acted selfishly. How can someone be so self-centered? What kind of upbringing results in such a lack of empathy? Surely a person who engages in an affair and divorced without consent must lack serious consideration for others. I was too stunned to speak. Realizing it was futile to harbor any hope or doubt, Larry pleaded, "My girlfriend found out you have $15 million and says she'll divorce me if I don't get it from you. You still love me, right? Don't you want to help the person you used to love?" It was clear that Larry's mistress also knew about my $15 million fortune. He must have carelessly told her. From his story, it seemed his mistress was just as obsessed with money. Birds of a feather flock together, I suppose. As much as Larry and his mistress seemed a perfect match, I couldn't care less about him now. No matter how much suffering comes his way, it has nothing to do with me anymore. "Please, I'll do anything. Just give me the $15 million. Larry continued to beg. But to me, his pleas were meaningless. My feelings for him had completely evaporated, replaced by a firm resolve to separate my life from his once and for all. Seeing Larry so utterly desperate was almost comical, and I couldn't help but laugh, though a wave of disappointment and misery soon followed. It dawned on me that he had never shown such desperation for anything that truly mattered to me. As we continued our conversation, my feelings for Larry cooled further. I realized that any more interaction with him was futile. Engaging with this man, who had become so distasteful to me, could not possibly lead to any happiness. I felt foolish for once hoping that during my illness, he might show up to offer kind words. Yet he remained completely oblivious to my feelings, as he kept pleading. "Please, leave now," I firmly told him. Even his desperate look as he continued to plead was just noise to me, an unpleasant disturbance. I pressed the nurse call button, explained the situation, and asked for assistance to remove Larry from the room. A security guard arrived promptly and escorted him out forcibly. "Please listen to me. I need you," Larry shouted until he was out the door. But I no longer took any of his words to heart. Larry tried to visit many times afterward, but the nurses, aware of the situation, never allowed him near my room again. I learned from a friend that, unable to secure the $15 million, Larry had disappointed his mistress, and she quickly left him. Now he was alone. Meanwhile, I faced my cancer with steadfast determination and eventually celebrated my recovery and discharge from the hospital. The relief and newfound energy from overcoming such a daunting challenge were more precious than anything. Now I am enjoying a peaceful and relaxed life, thoughtfully managing the wealth I accumulated through investments, far removed from the turmoil of my past with Larry.